to the 23rd episode of Aspire to Inspire, where we interview industry professionals. Today, I am so honored to have Ms. Priestley with us today. She currently stars in Netflix film Concrete Cowboys, starring alongside notable names such as Idris Elba, Caleb McLaughlin, Jharrel Jerome, Method Man, and so much more. This film is currently buzzing right now. And I, for one, can say that, Ms. Priestley, you did such a fantastic job. You executed the role that you played so flawlessly. But we're going to get into that more as we get into this interview. But as for now, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. Who is Miss Liz Priestley?
Well, it's interesting that this is my film debut because it takes place in Philly, and I'm a Philly native, actually. So I was born and raised. Well, all right, I'm gonna be real. I'm in the suburbs. I was born and raised in the suburbs because if you're from Philly, you gotta clarify. But no, I'm from here. I went to high school here, and my family is here. I have 5 sisters, and we're all still here, except for one who's in New York. But I grew up here, and I grew up just doing a whole lot of different artistic things. Um, I played violin. I started that first when I was 4, and I kept that up for about 18 years. Um, I am a vocalist. I'm a classically trained opera singer, and I started that around age 14 and kept that up. But um, for me, the interest was always movies. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was just always kind of fascinated with the process of movie making and different movie stars. Um, I just, and once I kind of figured out like there's a career where I can, play pretend and make money doing that, I was like, that is absolutely the career for me. Because, for some kids, it's like they play pretend until a certain point, and then they go on to other things. And for me, it was always like, no, I want to keep playing pretend. And the older I got, I was like, no, I still want to keep playing pretend. Like, I haven't grown out of this. Um, yeah. And then so when I went to college, it was sort of up in the air about whether I would do acting or opera, and I chose to kind of combine it. And I uh, studied musical theater, so I went into that after I graduated, and I did that for a little while. But I always knew this is where I kind of wanted to come back to, meaning I knew I wanted to make films.
Mhm.
Um, and I figured I could use any of my training over the years or things that I've done over the years to sort of get my foot in the door. And, it just so happened that that's pretty much what happened. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's basically me in a nutshell. I mean, it's just been a crazy journey.
Oh, yeah. I love asking that question because there's such authenticity when people explain how they started. They talk more about their love for acting and where it kind of began. And I love how you tossed in about you being what, originally wanted to do opera and you doing that for so many years. That's just, another skill you can have under your belt. Because
Yeah.
I'm looking at you and I'm just like, whoa, an opera singer.
And it's
I really
funny.
love that.
Opera for me, it's ironic that I'm doing films now because from like when I was a teenager onward, I performed as an opera singer in so many different things that um I think the expectation was that I would do that. For me, deep down, I knew even if I went into opera, it was only ever going to be temporary to get me to where I wanted to go. It was never, I knew, I was like, this is not what I'm going to do forever, even if I do it for a while. But the the irony is that most people here in my hometown, and from my high school and from my church, and people who know me, they all know me as an opera singer. And so now that word is coming out, like Liz is in a movie and it's on Netflix, it's bizarre to them because they're like, are you still singing? And I'm like, no, not really. So
That's absolutely hilarious.
yeah, I'm very excited for people to see it just because I'm like, yeah, I do other things.
Right. And
But
it's very, very important to do other things, to have those other types of, creative outlets that you can use. So that's
yes,
fantastic.
yes.
And that kind of leads into my next question. Well, in pertaining to acting, when was that moment in your life where you just knew you wanted to take acting seriously? So the question, so to say, is when did you transition from aspiring actor to officially a working actor?
Well, I mean, it's a two-part answer because for me, I never remember a time in my life where I didn't want to be an actor. I mean, I remember as far back as about 7 years old, being like saying that to family members, being like, I'm gonna be an actor, I'm gonna be in movies someday, you know. Um, that was always in the back of my mind, including in the, you know, the years where, you know, when you graduate and people are like, so you're gonna get a real job, and it was just like, I mean, I will, but until I can do that, you know what I mean.
Right.
um I always wanted to do this, and it's been a tough road because, you know, I have a 13-year-old and she needs to eat. And so, you know, over the years you have to put certain things on the back burner in order to take care of responsibilities or whatever. So through the years there were a lot of um people that were sort of trying to direct me into doing something a little more conventional. But as I said, I always knew that this was what I wanted to do. So I don't remember there being a time where I ever really seriously considered doing anything else, which is so bizarre. But um, I was in my first professional play when I was 14. um but I did my first play when I was in grade school, and I was hooked. I just was like, this is
I
it,
love
like this is it, you know. So it was always just a matter of what do I need to do to get there. And, you know, realizing over the years, you know, the more you study and the more you talk to people or read about people in the industry, the more you realize, oh, this is hard. Like, this is not like I get to show up every day for my 9 to 5, you know. This is me kind of competing with other actors for roles, although we don't like to say compete. But
right.
um but I always knew that this is it. I was like, I'll do the singing thing until I can get to the acting thing, or, you know, I'll combine them so that I can start here, but I want to end up here. It was just always, you know. And I've worked in a lot of different industries over the years, probably every single one you could possibly think of, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But I have worked in so many industries, and every time I took a job, it was always like, this is temporary until I can, you know, there was always a reason behind it. I need to save money for headshots, so I'm going to take this job and I'm going to earn my money for the headshots. Or um you know, I need to give myself a financial cushion to be able to travel up to New York for auditions. So I'm going to work at this job for a year and a half, 2 years, until I can actually, you know, it was always a goal towards the big goal.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that was actually well said because,
Oh, thanks.
you know, a lot of course, no, I would say because you gave a really good perspective that not a lot of people know in regards to the acting world, so to say.
Mm,
You know, the financial side of it. How are you taking care of yourself? I love how you added that you had to take care of your daughter, your 13-year-old daughter, and how
yeah.
came into play. You know, a lot of people. I like to say that acting has no age. You can start anytime you desire.
True.
And with that, you know, you got to think about the financial side. You got to think of the bigger picture. I like how you said you had to think of the bigger goal, do many goals in order to support your bigger goal.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, having that,
exactly.
it's crucial. And I loved how you talked about that. Thank you for sharing
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, the feedback I'm getting the most since this movie has come out is, I am so proud that you didn't give up, because you have always talked about how this is what you wanted to do and you're actually doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I was serious. Like, I wasn't kidding. You know what I mean? But that means something to me, that people recognize the fact that, you know, all in all, it's taken me a little over 20 years to get here,
Mhm.
from when I started really setting foot my first time on a stage or in front of an audience, to I have the number one movie on Netflix. What? Oh my gosh, crazy. I cannot even. Like, so many people have texted me the little screenshot, number one in the US. And I'm like, don't
Yeah.
know how to process
That
that.
feeling. Yeah. I mean, no, we're here on this platform to congratulate you on that. And
Oh,
you talked
thank
about
you.
20 years doing this and never stopping. And I loved you brought up about, those messages you're getting of how you
Mhm.
never quit, you never stopped, you never doubted. I mean, we all have our moments where we doubt, but you kept going in the
Absolutely.
midst. You kept going.
Absolutely.
And that's what's important. That's why we want to highlight you on this platform to just, encourage viewers who are watching this to keep going in any venture path you may be on. Just keep going, keep your head up, and you will get there. It doesn't matter how
Yes.
long it takes if you love it, but you'll get there.
You will. I mean, it's going to take time. This industry is not set up for what people think of as like the overnight success. This
Right.
industry is really not set up that way. It's the people that are plugging away that are going to get the, I mean, it so rarely happens that, somebody walks into a restaurant and goes, you would be perfect for my movie. I mean, that just doesn't, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. I know that's what people outside of the industry imagine happens, because we sort of just pop up out of nowhere and they're like, oh, I've never heard of Liz Priestley before. Who's she? And it's like, yeah, to them, I'm probably an overnight success, but yeah, 20 years, man. I mean, it's been a long time, so I'm happy. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah, you should be. It's a huge accomplishment, a huge, huge congratulations. This actually brings me to my next couple of questions about your role in the film Concrete Cowboys. And the name is pronounced Amahle, right?
Do you know, this was a subject of debate up until I actually had forgotten when the movie came out that there had been a resolution on this, but no one says my name in the movie until except for something we added my last day of filming. It was the very last thing I did. They said, "Oh, we need a voicemail." And I said, "Oh, okay." And they said, just record a quick voicemail." And I said, "What's my name?" Because it's spelled Amahle. And depending on who you would ask, it was either Amahle, or Amahle, or Amahle. And
Wow.
everyone told me something different. And I was like, "So what's my name?" And so they said, "Pick one." So I think in the voicemail, I say Amahle.
Amahle. That's
Yeah,
actually,
I
I
think I
thought it
do.
was really exotic and pretty.
Thank you.
I just thought it was really interesting to name someone that. And I was just like, huh, maybe there's a reason she's named that. Maybe there's a
I
behind.
if there is, I'm not aware of it, but I love the name. I mean, I love the way it looks.
Mhm.
Like, and even though I was like, I don't know how to pronounce it, it looks nice.
Yeah, but I mean, other than the name being so pretty and just I just wanted to say it. But your role in this film, Concrete Cowboys, it's so important. I thought you just did an amazing job executing the
Thank you.
character. I just really want to talk about before booking, just that audition, that moment in which you're going into doing something you feel as
Hmm.
though you're ready for, you got the
Hmm.
butterflies, you got nervous and everything. I just really want to hear from you what that process was like for you. I know it must be exciting to talk about seeing, how everything
It's
panned
sure.
out. It's definitely a story to share. So please share with
It's
us.
it's so funny too because this is well, in general, I don't get nervous for auditions anymore, and it's because of the program I was in college. I had an audition techniques class, and I mean auditions every week, mock auditions, and so after that, I it's like I almost got desensitized to them a little bit. So, um, for me now, walking into an audition, I rarely get nervous because I just think of it as an opportunity for people to get to know me for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whether I get the job or not, I want them to remember me for future stuff or just as somebody they go, she was nice. That was a nice little pick me up in my day. You know what I mean? So I rarely go into an audition anymore being like, I really want this part and I hope I get it. It's more of like, it'd be nice if I could make your jobs easier, but while I'm here, I'm just trying to make you laugh and then I'm gonna go. You know what I mean? And this audition was really actually quite special for me, obviously, because, I ended up getting it, but it was quite special because I had just signed with my manager about 6 months prior. Um, and it's the first representation I've ever gotten. Shout out to George Ann Bruzzesi, CPM talent. No, I had just signed with her. And before that, I was finding my own stuff, right? And I'm auditioning for student films and theater productions in Philadelphia and theater productions in New York. But I had never been on a film, like a real film audition. And so 6 months in, I've got a couple commercials under my belt. I've got an appearance on a TV show on Netflix that got cut for time. So I did it, but no one saw it.
Yeah. Oh, I hate this.
Yeah. So, and it was on Jessica Jones, which would have been awesome. But
Oh, that's awesome.
so when she sent me this audition and said it's for a film, I was immediately excited because I was like, this is me. This is what I want to do. Um, and at the time when I was sent the script, she was written very differently than the finished product in the film. Um, I much, much, much prefer the finished product of what I am in the film. But at the time, she was written more, I'm going to say a little more stereotypically in that it's stuff we've definitely seen before. I think it was stuff that kind of got redirected more towards Smush's character, but it said in the description that it looks like she's lived a hard life, and there were a lot of things that go on with that. So basically, I called up my manager and I said, "Look, I never do this, but for this audition, would it be all right if I go in with real messed up hair? Like I'm not gonna sleep for a couple days. I want to go with holes in my clothes and just look real gross and trashy. Is that okay?" And she was like, "Sure, go for it." And that's not something I would normally ever do, but I had been to this casting person several times, and she'd always seen me in sort of these Target, Walmart mom commercials where I'm very smiley.
Mhm.
And I really wanted her to see that I could do something a little more dark, a little more heavy, a little more emotional. So I did. I stayed up for about 72 hours, which I would not recommend. I did not sleep for 3 days. Um, I was wrecked. I mean, I looked bad. I had like circles and I darkened them with makeup. I mean, I really went in, and I had made some like audio recordings of like old journal entries that, like, as soon as I started hearing it, it would make me cry. So I cried a lot, and I went in looking terrible. And uh and and in those 72 hours that I stayed awake, I just drilled the lines, I mean, over and over until I knew them back, front, whatever. And I really felt like I had a good handle on this character. Oh, the other thing I did, because I'm suburban and I know what I sound like. But this character, this character is Detroit, and she's a tough mom. So I figured, I was like, I need to give her a little more bass in that voice, a little more authority. So I watched this girl on YouTube that I thought her voice really matched this character. And she's somebody that reviews episodes of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. I watched her for 16 hours and just copied her speech patterns as best I could. And then I went in, I do this audition, and I'm crying and I'm just a mess. And the casting person's like, you know, so I go, and a couple days later, I get a call back, and I come back in and I did the same thing. It was so funny because they called me on a Friday and said, "Your audition's on Monday." I said, "Great." Stayed up all weekend and did the same thing again. But the whole time I'm going, this feels this feels right. Like, I know her. I know who she is. I understand where she's coming from. She's got this son that is messing up, and he's messed up again. Like, and she has just had it. So, I go in, do it again. And about that time was when I started doing my little digging online, and I started finding out a little more about the movie. And
Mhm.
I kind of pieced together Idris Elba, concrete cowboy movie. What? And I'm like, so wait, I'm thinking this is just some mom. And then I'm like, oh, this is the mom.
Right. Right.
Oh, so then I got like a little bit nervous because then I'm like, oh, that's Idris's wife. But I immediately counted myself out, which is not something you should do as actors.
Mhm.
Um, I figured they would want a name actress as they should. I figured they would bring in someone famous. And at that point I figured I was being considered to be a stand-in, which I would have done. But I immediately was like, well, I'm out. They're not going to cast me. So it's pressure's off. It's fine. Um and I just kind of went in, did it, left, not expecting to hear anything. And then I got a third callback and I'm just like, hang on,
Right.
am I really up for this role or are y'all teasing me? Because now I'm kind of invested since I know who it is, and I really don't want to get my hopes up because he's just fabulous. Like, and they were like, no, you're really up for it. So I go in a third time, and by that point, the part had changed, and they had taken out a lot more of her kind of more undesirable elements to the character and made her more like what you see in the film. And I was really excited by that because I was like, I'm glad I don't have to play the cliche stereotypes. I could just play a mom. And
Mhm.
at that point, I was like, I really want it. Like, yeah, I want it. So I go in, I do the whole thing again. Even though it had changed, I was like, I'm still going to go in. And at that point, the director was there. And I get there and he's like, oh, I'm going to be on the phone for like 5 minutes. Just hang out, 5 minutes. It's fine. I cried on that couch in the waiting room for 45 minutes. And
Oh,
it
you're a
literally,
crier.
he came out and saw me still crying and just the look of terror on his face, like, and I go in, I'm like, like there's no more tears coming out. It's just kind of like a dry crying. But I go in, I do the scene again, and he got up and he shook my hand. And he was like, thank you so much. And I walked out of there being like, I feel like I got it. And I don't want to get my hopes up, but like that felt
Yeah.
good. And
Mm.
they called me the next day. But
Wow.
at no point did I meet Idris Elba. I never met Caleb. I didn't meet anyone. I just met the director on the very last audition. So it was wild. I mean, it was wild. And when I got the part, like my parents were away on a cruise, so I'm trying to reach them in the middle of the Caribbean, like, please call me back. I have news. It's just like it's the most bizarre, like
Yeah.
surreal experience. Yeah.
Wow, that's a fantastic story. And for you to just share that outwardly and just be so authentic with it, telling us every single thing, which I'm so glad you did because we wonder on the backside, how'd they get there? And I'm sure a lot of people message you like, how in the world did you get that? Along with congratulating you. And I mean, it just shows that there's hidden gems and hidden diamonds in the rough based in Philly or
They
wherever.
sure are.
A lot of
Philly is a fabulous city in terms of our actors here. I want so much for all of us to just like, I don't know, hop on a bus and go out to LA for like a weekend and just take them by
uh,
storm because I feel like people kind of sleep on Philly actors.
mm,
Um, and they're fantastic. They are
yeah,
fantastic. So
they are.
I'm
And
biased, but
you're
I mean,
you're definitely one of them, and you proved that. Just
thank you.
doing it so flawlessly. I was so caught off guard when I saw you, and I was just like, yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I would just had to get you on here to share your thoughts and your story.
Oh, I appreciate that so much because I mean, I worked really hard to get into her headspace. I mean, I have a 13-year-old, but she's never given me the kind of trouble that my son in the film gave me. So I appreciate that so much. I really wanted her to be unrecognizable as it compares to myself.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. It took me a second to recognize you. It
yeah.
took me a second.
I had a couple of those. I was watching the movie, and all of a sudden you were there, and I was like, I know her. Is that Liz? I'm like, yeah, it's me.
Yeah, I mean, with being a part of this film and just the significance behind it, the storyline is fantastic. In your opinion, what do
Yes.
you hope the audience, viewers who are watching the film, will take away from the overall storyline of Concrete Cowboys?
I mean, basically what they're already doing, which is helping out Fletcher Street Stables, which is where we shot with. I mean, we've got real life cowboys from there in our film playing cowboys and cowgirls. Um, and I really hope that people continue to donate. I did read in an article earlier today that donations have just kind of exploded through the roof. And I'm like, yes, keep that, because it's so important that we have these places in the city. And, Philly, like some other cities in our country, we have a reputation that I think people in power have really have made out to be quite negative.
Mhm.
And so then when you have something like Fletcher Street Stables or some of the other horse stables in Philly that exist in order to keep our youth off the streets and to teach them skills and responsibility,
Mhm.
that to me says volumes about the city that I come from. And so what I'm hoping that people take away is that, number one, they realize that we're not a city of, barbarians and killers and this and that. We have this beautiful group of people that have been here since the Civil War. I mean, truly, and have existed all this time in order to help our young people. And that, because of realizing that, I hope that people continue to donate and to support them. Um, and then, I hope people go, who's that Liz Priestley? Let's get her in some more things. I mean, obviously, I hope.
As they
Um,
should, as they should.
yeah, no, it would be really cool, obviously, if that happened. But I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope people go, yeah, I want to work with her. She seems, okay. So I like her. I like what she did.
Yeah,
So
I mean that will definitely.
excuse me.
You said if it happens, when it happens, because it definitely will. Because the storyline was so authentic and so true. It talked about topics that unfortunately I didn't know about. I wasn't educated on Black cowboys based in Philadelphia. When I heard that, it went straight over my head. I was at a state
Hmm.
of relief, and
Literally during my costume fitting, the lady was like fitting me, and I go, "So this is a fictional story, right?" And she was like, "No."
oh,
I was like, oh, okay. And I went home online and was like, I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'm from here. I had no clue. And I've had a lot of people say to me, oh man, I remember, growing up watching the people on the horses. I'm like, I had no clue. I
mhm,
had no clue. I
right.
felt a little shameful when I got cast.
Oh man, I mean, I felt shameful watching it. Like, how come I didn't know this? And just, how many other people have not known about this? And, without the
Lots.
film being made, we wouldn't be educated on it. And, huge shout out to cast and crew and just you being
Oh,
part of
yeah.
that true authenticity throughout the whole entire film. Each
They all were they were all stunning people to meet and to work with. And I'm talking about the writers. Well, obviously, okay, I'm gonna say it. Idris Elba is stunning to work with. We'll get to that in a second. No, the real life writers, they're remarkable people, and they were so welcoming to us and so excited about what this opportunity was going to bring. So yeah, I mean, talk about authentic. I mean, I don't want to give anything away because it's still out, but I mean, like the guy who plays Paris, I mean, he's never been in a movie.
mm, wow. I would have never known. Would have never known.
I don't think he's ever done any acting in his entire life.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's pretty awesome to
That
be
is
a part of that.
awesome. And, with all of that being said, we're kind of winding down the interview a little bit. And thank you so much for sharing your
Oh,
insight,
absolutely.
your thoughts. I loved each story you told. It's not really much of a story, it's your truth. And basically, with that being said, You're creating your own pathway, 20 years of experience under your belt. There's still so much in the world for you, regardless of age, regardless of how many years,
Mhm.
I ask this final question to you, how do you desire to use your platform like this, your growing platform, which will come? How do you desire to
Mhm.
use it to inspire others, along the way?
Wow, that's a really great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. It's strange because I never really thought of myself as having a platform, and then just this past weekend with the movie coming out, it's like I feel like now I have, and it's like, oh, so what are we gonna do about that?
Right.
Um, and I really don't know. I'm not even really a big social media person. I mean, I just have a Facebook, and it's now like the first time I'm considering should I expand on that? And and if so, it's like, what do I want to put out into the world? Because social media can be such a great thing, and then it can be such a toxic thing. But as far as using my own platform, I think the only thing I can really say to that is, no matter what I put out there, I just want everything to be authentic and real and honest. I am by no means an offensive person at all. I'm somebody who, I love hearing people's stories, and I love to share stories, and I love to, share love and encouragement and things like that. But at the same time, I'm very honest. I'm very real. I talk about things like mental health struggles and women's rights issues and empowerment and body positivity and all of that kind of stuff. Colorism. I talk about all of that. I mean, so I guess for me, whatever I put out there, I just hope that people see it as honest and real and encouraging and
Mm,
positive. I'm not trying to put anything negative out there. And then in terms of what I can do, um, there's different issues I will probably raise when I get more famous, hopefully, when I get more famous. Like, I want to do something for like National Adoption Day. I'm adopted, and that's something I feel like people don't really talk about in terms of like adopting from within your own country or within your own city as opposed to overseas adoptions. That's something I've always been like, man, if I ever get famous, I'm going to do something on National Adoption Day and be like, bring awareness, but stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't really know. It's just exciting to know that I even have a platform. That's like insane. It's surreal to me that
mm,
I'm like having this conversation. It's awesome, but I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a platform now. That's
right. It's
what I'm
something.
gonna do with that.
It's something to think about. And I
Yeah.
loved how you shared, thinking about branching out and what you want to do once you're given that platform. That's
Hmm.
all amazing things and something to
Oh,
be
thanks.
very proud of, in a sense. Because some people can be a bit selfish with their platforms, do it for X, Y, and Z reasons, but it's great that you
Yeah.
have a overall objective towards it. But thank you so much for joining this interview. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate hearing from you. Thank you so much for your insight. I really, really appreciate you. God bless you on your journey. Stick around afterwards. I'll be talking to you a little bit after. But for the sake of our viewers, thank you so much for watching yet another inspiring episode of Aspire to Inspire. More episodes will be coming to you guys real, real soon, no doubt and no question. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day, guys.